Hello, everyone. For your reference, all lines have been placed into a listen-only mode to prevent background noise. If you would like to submit a question, please type it into the Q&A console located on your GoToWebinar screen throughout the Q&A session, and we will try to get to them at the end. If you have any technical difficulties, please email envestnet.platform@envestnet.com for assistance. Additionally, we will be recording today's event and expect to make it available shortly after the session. So now on to our event. Welcome everyone to tonight's Envestnet Institute on Campus webinar event, CFP Certification, An Achievable Accomplishment. This will follow a Q&A format, and I would like to just say thank you to everyone who submitted questions beforehand. This was very helpful, and we hope many of your questions will be answered tonight. With that, I would like to introduce our guest speakers for tonight, Kyle Lawrence and Sarah Broudon. Both are Envestnet Scholarship awardees. Kyle, who just achieved passing the CFP exam recently, congratulations, Kyle, is a graduate from Northeastern University from the class of 2015 with a bachelor's degree in business administration. Upon graduation, he worked at the Bank of New York, Mellon, as a derivatives specialist, and then Lincoln Investment as a wealth management analyst. For the past 3 years, he has worked at Amundi Asset Management, where he assists financial advisors with mutual funds, closed-end funds, and actively managed ETF selection. He has a passion for fitness, traveling, and real estate. Next, I'd like to introduce Sarah. Sarah, would you like to introduce and give a brief introduction about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Katie. So I passed the CFP exam in September of 2020. I graduated from Ohio State University in 2018 with my bachelor's degree in financial planning. Right now, I work for the Next Level Planning Group as a financial advisor and a financial analyst. My main role is creating financial plans for new clients. I ran cross country in college, and I'm currently training for the Milwaukee Marathon. So that's what I've been doing for fun during COVID, is a lot of running alone.
Wonderful. Okay, so why don't we get to it, because we only have a fairly short period of time. So, Sarah, I know we have scheduled, we have set up some questions. So why don't you just start off with question one and we'll get started.
Yeah, okay, so first we did see that there were some requests just to talk about what the CFP is in general, or how long it takes to get it. So it looks like the average amount of time is 18 to 24 months. I know it took me about 11 months, and I think Kyle, it took you about 11 as well from beginning to end. There are 4 main parts to getting the CFP. So first is education. You have to have a bachelor's degree, and then also complete the required coursework, which is like 7 undergraduate level financial planning classes. Obviously, you have to take the exam, and pass it, and then there's an ethics requirement where you agree to the ethics of the CFP board, and then experience. So it's 6,000 hours if you take the standard pathway, or 4,000 on the apprentice pathway. And the difference is basically the apprentice pathway is you are the advisor and you're seeing clients one-on-one. Okay, so our first question is, how did you manage both work and studying?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought this was a great question to open up with. Just because of the times that we're living in today with, the pandemic, COVID-19. Back in March, when I really first started to study, I got the notice that I'd be working from home until further notice. So that really helped in regards to my schedule. I didn't really have to worry about, traveling into the office, traveling back from the office back home. And I really utilized that time to just hone in on studying and get my study schedule down packed. So initially I was really, I'd wake up around 7:30 a.m. and study until about 9. And then I'd do my day job from, 9 to 5:30 about, and then I'd study again in the afternoon from about 6:30 to 8. So that was a typical day, or that was a typical, that was my typical schedule Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends, I'd put in a little bit more time, 4 to 5 hours, just because I knew I was eyeing that November testing window. So when I started back in December, the December prior, I knew that I had to, put in a lot of hours to kind of, get ready for that November exam. So yeah, just really make a schedule and stick to it, and let your employer know as well that you'll be going through this CFP certification, and they should give you additional time to study. Anything you would like to add to that one, Sarah?
I think, yeah, for me, it was the same. I mean, the fact that we were in a pandemic and there wasn't anything else to do, it was
Mhm.
really easy to find time to study. Um, I think it's great that your employer gave you time off or extra time to study. That is not what happened for me. It was just on your own time. Okay, so what resources did you utilize when struggling through a particular class or topic? And just like, how did you approach studying for the exam in general?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a plethora, there are an abundance of different resources out there for you. The CFP board, they give you these resources and they want you to pass the exam. They want you to be a CFP professional, but they're not going to, give it to you. You have to work for it. So some of the resources that I utilized was the CFP board mentoring program. Um, it's a program where they have a platform for you to select a mentor, and you can select that mentor based on race, ethnicity, location. You can select it based on gender, and you really rely on that CFP mentor to kind of give you insight and help you accomplish your journey or help you get through the journey. I also used the candidate forum, which is a forum in which you can go and you can ask questions, anything CFP related, whether that's content based or whether that's just your professional work experience, anything that you wanted to discuss. And people are very happy to answer your question and give you their input, whether that is how they're working with their clients during a pandemic, or they really don't understand a concept within estate planning or something like that. Two other resources that I used was the Boston Institute of Finance. They have a podcast in which they discuss topics that are going to be on the CFP exam. So I remember listening to podcasts on like fiscal versus monetary policy. What are the differences? Or irrevocable versus revocable trust. When should you recommend a revocable trust for a client versus irrevocable trust, or any there's a number of different topics that they talk about. They're very knowledgeable, and they also give CFP candidates 2 free tutoring sessions. So I would definitely suggest utilizing those as well.
Great. Okay, so the next question we had are, what are the best practices for remembering formulas and what formulas are given on the exam?
Yeah, so you're going to receive a formula sheet with each question. There's going to be a link on each question that has a link to the formula sheet. The formula, I think there's about, I want to say like anywhere between like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, like anywhere between like 14 or 16 formulas, and they're all
I
investment
think
planning.
it's 18.
It was 18? Okay, so I used about 3 of them on the exam. Like you're not going to use every single formula on that exam. Um, but the ones that I did use, I needed. And what helped me was familiarizing myself with each one of those formulas, knowing, the different components of the formula and knowing how to use it and when to use it. Another thing in addition to the formula sheet was that I really familiarized myself before the exam was the tax tables. So just knowing what the different, I guess, the different areas or the different aspects of the tax tables, knowing how to use it and knowing when to utilize them. I spent a lot of time, understanding those tax tables and understanding the formula sheet. So yeah, I mean, anything. What worked for you, Sarah, on regarding the formulas?
I think, yeah, so when I first started studying, so the formula sheet you're given and the tax tables that you're going to be getting are posted on the CFP website. And so I
Yep.
printed those out to use when I studied. And then, yeah, like you said, Kyle, like, so the formula sheet, I have it, I still have it in my desk, but if you guys can see, like, you can see all the variables, but it doesn't tell you what the variables are or what they mean. So I made flashcards to remember, and like, I made a lot of different flashcards for all the sections, but I have them here. So it's like this thick. These are all the flashcards I memorized while I was studying, but that's what works for me. That's also what I did in college. If you hate flashcards, like you don't have to do that. I don't think you use flashcards, right? Kyle, you said you didn't?
Well, no, not for the formula. I didn't really use the flash. I used
Yeah.
flashcards for some other things that I really, was really difficult for me to understand. But in addition to the formula sheet, I would also know like how to do like the tax calculation, like like gross income minus adjustments above the line equals adjusted gross income minus itemized deductions or standard deductions equals your taxable income. Like know how to do that, and also know how to do the estate one. Whereas it's your gross estate minus what is it?
Mm-hmm.
Taxes due or debts owed or something like that equals your adjusted gross estate minus the marital and charitable deduction equals your,
Yeah.
like know how to do those. I don't know what to exactly call those, but they're not going to give you that. Like you're going to have to like memorize the different steps to calculate your taxable estate and taxable income as well. So I mean, if you're going through like the education component or you're reviewing for like a March
Mm-hmm.
exam, like you know exactly what I'm referring to. I just don't know what to call like, I guess, those calculations. You know what I mean, Sarah?
Yeah. Yeah. Just other tax calculations. I don't think there's a specific name for them. It's
Yeah,
just it's just more stuff to know.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so our next question is about review courses. So did we use any? How long do we use them for? And then what are the pros and cons?
Well, so I use Brett Danko for mine, and I really like Brett Danko. I reviewed for about, I want to say 10 weeks, maybe it was like 10 and a half weeks, and I took 2 weeks off between the capstone and starting my review. Just to kind of recharge and get my mind right, get organized, because the education it could be a lot. Like they're just dumping a bunch of information on you, and a lot of the information like you might not even need that for the exam. So the review course is really like what's going to get you to the finish line. I used Brett Danko. I did it for about 10 and a half weeks. The pros, there were so many different pros. I think, one thing that really stuck out to me was, Brett, he's a business owner, so like, and he does the reviewing himself. So he travels all up and down, like kind of the East Coast. He goes to Boston, New York, Jersey, Philadelphia, and I think maybe like Washington, D.C. And, he'll give you, he'll have a window where it's like Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, you need to come to this hotel and we're going to review for 12 hours each day. So I got to the hotel maybe about like 7:30 a.m. I didn't leave until 8 p.m. And he's going to give you an hour for lunch, and then you're going to have like two 15-minute breaks. And you're just going to be reviewing CFP material that's probably going to be on the exam. He's a financial planner himself. He's been a financial planner for about 20 years, and he's been doing this for, you know, I don't even know how long, like a bunch of years as well. So in terms of cons, I really don't have many cons. Like it's great. He's funny. He keeps you engaged. Like during those 12-hour sessions, 3 days straight, you're not going to be, falling asleep just because he knows how to I guess gain the attention of his students for those full 12 hours. But it is a very engaging review course, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. How was Kaplan? I know they use Kaplan, Sarah.
Yeah, I like Kaplan a lot. That is definitely like, I mean, it's all self-study, but it like the review class that I did, it was not in person, it was online, and that like, works very well for me. And instead of it being like, I think you said yours was 4 days in a row, 8 hours a day. Is that right?
Well, no, mine was 3 days in a row, 12-hour
2 days
days.
in a row.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So mine was not that. It was over 3 weeks, and it was 3 hours, 3 times a week. So like it was like 11 classes total, and all of them were 3 hours, and it was just through the month of June. I
Okay.
ended up starting to study in May because I was originally going to take the exam in July, but then it was pushed back. And so I ended up studying for like almost 18 weeks because I was so anxious to get started. I really like Kaplan. They have their own podcast that they create. So I really like that because I could like listen in the car, or if I was going somewhere, I could study without necessarily having to have a book with me. They also have learning objective videos, which I like also really enjoyed. And then their question bank is like 2,500 questions. And
Yeah.
I just found that helpful because I think I probably would have run out of questions if I didn't have that many.
Yeah. No, that's no, absolutely. And I think that most people, like if you're at the stage where you're looking for a review course, I think that most people use Kaplan Dalton, I think
Yeah.
his name is Ken Zahn. That's another that was like Brett Danko's mentor. Like Brett Danko like learned from
Mm.
him, and then he kind of like just stole he just like kind of like stole his business idea, and like they like compete now or something like that. But yeah, I think
Mm.
those are the four main ones that people use. But there should be others on the CFP website that people can utilize.
Yeah. Yep. Lots of different options. I think it helps to know how best you study. I like to self-study. I don't really like having a teacher. So that's
Mhm.
one of the reasons I didn't look at Brett Danko, but like I have friends who did that and that worked really well for them.
Yeah. I also, in addition, this is a great. I know like people that did it without a review course, which I think
Hmm.
like 99% of people should be using a review course just because there's so much information. Like I don't know how but there was like one person on the forum talking about like, oh, I did it without a review course, which I don't like. I don't know how. Like I would have never been able to do that just because there's so much information at the education level. But
Hmm. Okay, so the next question is asking how we managed our time during the CFP exam. Um, so
yeah,
I think so. I spent like the first half basically reading the books I got and doing a review course, and then the second half of studying, just taking like practice tests and questions. I did practice tests and questions the whole time, but the first half was more like reading and like watching the review course.
oh, is this question for like in terms of like the exam? Like, how did I manage my time during the exam?
Oh, maybe. I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah. So you answer that. That was just what
Okay,
I showed
okay,
some
yeah. Well,
extra. Yeah.
that's
How'd you
good
manage your time during the
information now as
exam?
well. That's good information. Well, on the exam, I think so. You took it in September, correct? So
Hmm.
I think starting in September, the CFP board a they had a like they came up with this new format where like it's 4 quarters of the exam instead of like two halves. Like so, there's 1A and 1B, and then there's 2A and 2B. So 1A is going to be like 42 or 43 questions, and then you move on to 1B. But once you move into 1B, you can't move back into 1A. But you're going to have 3 hours to do like you're going to have 3 hours to do the
Alex.
full morning session. So I would just manage, like I did like 2 minutes per question. Like obviously some questions it took me like 30 seconds, and then other questions like there was a lot of math. So like it took me like maybe 4 or 5 minutes, and then I wanted to double check my math to make sure I got the question right. So I mean, on average, I would say if for the March exam they're using the same format, 2 minutes per question, and then move on. Um, but it's kind of a weird format where you do 42 or 43 questions, and then once you're done with that you can't move backwards. So I would just really familiarize myself with the exam format and the timing because it can be confusing. Another thing is between section 1A and 1B and 2A and 2B you can take like an optional break. um, but I elected not to take the break. I just worked through it. Like I just did the full 3 hour session, 85 questions, and then the 40-minute in between break, and then the 3 hour session in the afternoon. That might be very confusing, but just make sure that you're familiarizing yourself with the format.
Yeah. I didn't know they changed the format before I started the exam, but I don't know. It was fine. Like I just went. I didn't think the exam. Like I don't remember feeling particularly nervous
Mm-hmm.
during the exam. Leading up to it, I was a mess. But actually taking it, it was okay.
Exactly. You should be going like when I went to the exam, like I was like over prepared. Like they say like
Yeah.
200 hours. I might have got to like 400 hours of study. So like I think that you'll be fine. Like as long as you put in the work, don't stress too much about the exam format and timing and things like that. Like if you put in time, like you'll have enough time to finish and and you'll ace the exam.
Okay, next question. Okay, how did you handle case study questions during the CFP exam?
Yeah, this is a great question because when I was going through like the education and the review, like I hated the case studies. Like I hated the case
Mhm.
studies so much. Like I would avoid case studies at all times. just because like the case studies were longer than the actual exam and like the questions were harder and you'll be going back to the case to like find the, how to find the answer to the question. But like simply, this might seem very simple, but I literally just read the case and then I did the 8 or 9 problems that came after that during the exam. Like some people like to read the questions first and then go back and then look for the questions in the case. But I just simply like to just read it. I read it at a quicker pace. I didn't really skim it, but I did read it, and then I would answer the questions. And if I needed to refer back to the case, I knew exactly where to go. If that makes any sense. But I know that everyone has
Yeah.
their own ways to do the cases. How'd you do the cases there?
Yeah, I did read the questions first because I just like knowing what I was looking for. It kind of let me know what information I could ignore because they always give you way more information you need. Like there's like I remember one of them, there was a section where it was all about insurance, but none of the questions were asking about insurance. So I just didn't read that at all. So
Yeah.
I did find that helpful. It's like a time saver to do the questions first. But clearly you did it the other way and we both passed. So it's whatever works for you.
Whatever works for you. Yeah, so don't be too worried. I was like that too. Don't
Yeah.
just don't be too worried about the case studies.
Yeah, I think it's more important that you practice them outside of the exam than whatever your actual method is. Just make sure the first time you do a case study isn't during the exam.
Right. Like I was so surprised actually by my case study. So like it was like after the 5th question of the whole exam, like it was like, oh, you're gonna be doing a case study now. And I'm like, oh my God, like I just started
Yeah.
the exam, like I'm 5 questions in and you're already making me do a case study. It was like, but I didn't panic or anything like that. The case wasn't too long. But that's the thing about Brett. So like he'll make his cases extra hard so that, when you get to the exam, you're like, oh, this is it. This is all you're gonna test me on. Like, so yeah, so that's my 2 cents about case studies. Don't worry about it too much. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Okay, next question. Do the exam questions seem practical?
I would say yes. I would say like maybe like 70% of I don't know, and I could be totally wrong, but just from my memory, based on my memory, like 70% of the questions were like scenario based or situational, like they're in meaning that they're gonna give you Jane and Joe have this amount of assets, this amount of debt. They have 3 kids and they're planning for college. Like, what should they do? A, B, C, or D. Like, and then I would say maybe about 30 or 20 to 30% of the questions were concept based. Like, this concept or you don't. Either you know it or you don't. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but the majority, yes, I would say that most of the exam questions do seem practical. What would you do?
I agree with that.
You agree? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly what you said.
If that's what they mean by practical, like like real life situation,
Yeah.
like yeah. So I would say yes.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. In your experience, is there a particular section we should focus on a little more?
I think that it's going to depend. It's going to depend on, just your weakness. Like for me, and we talked about this, Sarah. Like
Yeah.
investment planning came a little bit easier, just because that's what most interests me, and that's what I do, on a daily basis. So some of the concepts that might be more difficult for someone else to understand were easier for me to understand. Like
Hmm.
like what, like standard deviation, beta, Sharpe ratio, trainer ratio, alpha, like those concepts, like you know, were kind of like second nature to me, just because I'm working, I kind of work within that field of financial planning on a daily
Hmm.
basis. Um, I know that you had a similar experience, Sarah, with oh, I mean, but yeah, so like,
Yeah. I think I spent probably the most time on tax and estate planning. But I think everyone kind of like you'll figure out what you have the easiest time with and what you don't. Like I have a friend who's about to take the exam and he's a CPA. So he has spent like no time on the tax planning, but I'm sure he will be fine. So you just kind of, as you go through the material, you figure out what you're best at and whatever, like when you take practice quizzes, if it's showing you are scoring low in a particular area, spend more time in that area.
absolutely. And when you're going through the education or wherever you're at in your journey, or if you're going through the review, like you'll know like which subject area you're weaker on. So I was weaker on insurance. So instead of spending time, unnecessary time on investments, I spent that time on insurance because for some reason Medicare and
Mhm.
Medicaid, I just hated it, and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
It was just like a foreign language to me, but I wanted to know it for them. So
I mean,
I
yeah,
just failed.
Medicare is boring and complicated. So that's, I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. Okay, with all the current tax law changes, is there something we should particularly prepare for? So
Um. Oh yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, I think with this, so like you're going to have to know what the laws are, but the exam is not going to ask you what did the Secure Act change. That's not going to be the question, but you're going to need to know that if you have an inherited retirement account and you're an eligible designated beneficiary, you have to withdraw the full amount in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not going to ask you what law says that, but you need to know that. And I also think, I don't believe that the upcoming exams include what was on the CARES Act, because most of those changes only applied to the year 2020. But all that information is also posted on the CFP board's website,
Right.
when new tax laws are included.
Right. Right. In addition to that, that was a great answer. In addition to that, your review course should tell you like, okay, like
Mm-hmm.
you should be focusing on, like the tax cuts and job that you should know that. Like you should know the
Yeah.
Secure Act. Like you might not need to like so Brett Danko, he told us to review the CARES Act, but I elected not to. I was like, I'm not going to spend any time on that just because
Yeah.
it might be one or two questions. Like, okay, if I get those two questions wrong, I'm still, I don't think it really
Okay.
would really matter. Like, I'd rather focus that time on insurance and estate planning, which were kind of my weaker subject areas, than knowing everything about the CARES Act. And I didn't even get any questions on the CARES Act, but I think
Yeah,
that's
well, you wouldn't have. The CFP board specifically states when new tax laws are going to be included on the exam, and they said before the September and November exams that there would be no questions about the Secure Act or the CARES Act. So it's odd that Brent Danko said for you to look at it all because they said it wasn't going to be on there.
they sent us an email that had like all this information on the CARES Act, and they were like, it might be on the exam, but we don't know. So
Okay,
just
that's odd because they should definitely have known. That's odd. Okay, the next question is, did you pass the exam on the first attempt?
I did pass the exam on the first attempt,
Okay.
but I don't know if like passing on the first attempt is great and like you can get it over with, but just from like a long-term view, like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, like clients or like my employer isn't going to ask me, oh, did you pass the CFP exam on the first attempt? So that's for like, anybody out there that, may have failed or is like, worried or nervous or anything like that. Like, if you do fail, I guess, taking it again, again won't hurt because you'll be studying more and you'll know the information, probably more than a one-time test taker would, if that makes any sense. So, I know people that took it twice. I know people that posted in the CFP board candidate forum that they took it 4 times. I think the CFP board gives you about 5 times to take it though.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you pass, you just need that one pass, and then you're good.
Yeah. Yeah, I passed on the first time as well. I mean, I think like I just had a lot of time to study since the exam was pushed back. But I mean, if you don't do it the first time, you'll do it the second. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so last question, how did you benefit from the CFP certification?
Yeah, so I don't think that I have, it's only been or I guess it's been like a little bit over a month since I've got the CFP letters. So like I haven't really fully reaped the benefits of becoming a CFP certificate. So but there have been a lot of employers that have been reaching out to me, via LinkedIn, or, I went to like the CFP board job fair, and like people reached out to me before the job fair to, have a discussion. Like I talked with like Northwestern Mutual and JP Morgan. I also had a discussion with Ameriprise and Morgan Stanley. So there's going to be an abundance of opportunities for you, like once you become a CFP professional. I would even argue like right before you're going to, take the exam or something like that. Like, employers like to hear that, oh, I'm going through this, like I'm currently on my CFP journey. I'm taking the exam soon. Like, I think doors will open for you if you communicate that to employers. And then, of course, clients are going to recognize that as well. Like the CFP board has done a great job at, advertising and promoting the CFP board brand. Like I'll be on the couch watching TV and there's a see the CFP commercial. So I don't think that a lot of other designations, really have been marketing their brand, but the CFP board has been, and I think that I can benefit in that regard.
I have been at the same employer since I graduated college. I really like my job. I really like where I work. I love my bosses. So for me, getting the certification wasn't so much about me trying to job hunt or look at other places of employment, but like I got a raise and a promotion after getting the CFP. And I'm starting to see clients alone, like not as second chair, but as like primary chair this year. And I learned a lot from the certification. So it's helped me be a better planner.
Yeah, no, absolutely. More money.
More money is great.
That's always a motivator. So congratulations to you. I think we have one question. I think I had one question about maybe someone asked a question about does Brett Danko have any practice questions? Yes. So I got this book. It was a big book. I'm not sure if I don't have it in front of me, but I got this huge book with just practice tests, quizzes. So like the way I did it was I read a section and then I would do the quiz. So for like general principles, I read like the first chapter and then I would do the quiz. I read the second chapter, I would do the quiz until I got to 8 chapters within that one subject area, and then I would take the tests for that, general principles, and then I would move on to insurance. Chapter 1, I would, read chapter 1, do the quiz, read chapter 2, do the quiz, and then at the end of 8 chapters, I would do the test, and then I just kept doing that until I got to a state. And by the time I got to a state, that's when it was time to go to the in-person review. So yeah, there's an abundance of practice questions. You'll have more practice questions than you'll ever want to do. I know Kaplan has a robust.
Yeah. There's. I think most of the programs that are like on the CFP board's website are probably great. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on the website.
Yep. Yeah. All right.
You guys, that was awesome. You timely answered every question I think that everybody sent in. So it was a very comprehensive Q&A, and I can't thank you enough. So with that being said, if you guys would like to find out more of Kyle's and Sarah's journey, or just need to ask some more questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I can actually, get their answers and direct them to them. I'm sure they'll make themselves available to answer any more questions that you might have. Also, I want to thank both Kyle and Sarah for being such champions and providing their time and preparation into this webinar event for us. We knew it would be a success and a true benefit to everyone that was dialed in. So we thank you very much, you guys, and it was a pleasure. It was awesome. You guys should do this as a team going forward. Just saying. Just saying.
Yeah, maybe we'll have a podcast or something.
Absolutely. I think that would be awesome. You guys kept referencing podcasts, so why not do your own? That could be so easy.
Yeah.
And so with that, I wish everyone a good night, and thank you all for attending. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.